Well, it's finally here. My road to Gotham Knights videos can come to an end because Gotham Knights has officially released. Now, some of you might be thinking as well, I might be reviewing this a little bit too positively, or a little bit too negatively, because I'm a giant Batman fan and I don't know what gave it away. But I will be taking a look at this review from two different standpoints, one of which being as a massive Batman fan, and the other being of how is this game as a video game in general. I also won't be going into overly many spoilers. I did want to go into a bit of a deep dive with this video review, but also I have to keep in mind that some people just want to have a Batman fan's opinion of this game without actually having the whole thing spoiled for them. So I will be avoiding spoilers from things that you haven't seen in trailers or the general story. And finally, just before I get into it, if you do enjoy the content that I create, you have your own feedback on what your thoughts on the game was, or if I did a bad job, or whatever the instance may be, dropping a comment down below, I always generally tend to respond to them. And if you want to even show even more support, you can follow me on Twitter, or you can subscribe to the channel, and suggest some new games for me to take a look at going forward. But without any further notice, let's get into it. Batman is dead. Wayne Manor and the Batcave is gone. The criminals of Gotham have started to clue on that the Batman hasn't been around, and it's up to the Bat family to basically keep the city from falling into chaos. But how does a Arkham-esque inspired game work without the Batman? Well, it works as good as the apprentice trying to become the master. Gotham Knights starts off with a 10-minute plus cutscene cinematic, which personally worked for me and sets the tone for the game going forward and confirming that yes, Batman in this world is dead.
Without Batman, crime has no punchline.
The Bat family need to work together to save Gotham, but each of them are dealing with the grief of Bruce Wayne's death as well, and I'll come back to this in a moment. But from that, Nightwing, Red Hood, Batgirl and Robin need to maintain order in the city, a city which hasn't seen Batman in some time, and they're starting to notice that he's gone. Now, when it comes to gameplay, Gotham Knights is both similar yet completely different to the previous Arkham games, and it works both for and against it at the same time. What? Now, Gotham Knights is an open world game similar to that of Arkham Knight, but the map size of Gotham City is huge, with 1001 different landmarks and Easter eggs and more scattered around the world. Now, the game is set into two small styles of sections, if you will, one of which being set during the day during your base of operations, the Belfry, which worked as a backup base of operations for Batman when he couldn't make it back to the Batcave. Now, the game sets out that the Belfry hasn't been used in some time and some of the tech is a little outdated, which comes into the core gameplay. When out exploring the city of Gotham, it obviously takes place at nighttime, and when out in the world, you can follow the main story, you can do side missions, or you can prevent crimes that are either actively happening or about to happen. And just like Arkham Knight before it and Insomniac Spider-Man, it makes you feel like a member of the Bat family, whether you're on your way to Blackgate Prison to do a mission with Harley Quinn, and you notice that someone's being mugged in a back alley, and you just go and intervene.
Meg's our daughter.
Now, the combat is a little bit more button bashy compared to the Arkham games or the Spider-Man games, with one button being used for attacks, one button for dodging, and one for ranged attacks. For example, when you're playing as Red Hood, the X button on an Xbox controller is light attack, but if you hold down that button, you do a heavy attack. B is dodge, where previous other games like the Arkham games we've got, when you're about to get hit, rather than countering, you'll just flat dodge their attack, and then you can do a counter attack from that if you hit the button at the right time. Y is range attacks, where Red Hood will just flat out use his pistols, which Red Hood doesn't use traditional rounds, and don't worry, it's explained.
Man, those Derringer bullets are weak. Powerful weak.
But the main core combat in a nutshell, using inspiration from previous games, but it sort of just makes its own new system, but each character plays differently, as you'd expect.
What? You don't say.
What Gotham Knights gives us with this new combat system is momentum, which is this bar on the bottom of the screen. When connecting with attacks or dodging, you'll build momentum which can be used for special abilities or attacks. For example, Robin will use a hologram decoy that's used to trick enemies and give you a bit more of a breather, where Nightwing, being the acrobat that he is, pounces on enemies, knocking them down, dealing decent damage. And as you progress further in the game, your heroes will level up, just like with all RPGs, learning new attacks, getting better equipment, and becoming more powerful in general. As you'd expect, each member of the Bat family plays different from both combat and traversal point of views.
You don't say!
Nightwing, being an acrobat, uses his escribner sticks where he feels very quick. Red Hood uses pistols and is quicker at ranged attacks but is a bit slower for hand-to-hand combat. Now, as he's got pistols, he can simply shoot enemies and interrupt enemy attacks that they're about to perform, and I will say Red Hood does this seamlessly, where other characters with their range attacks takes a bit more time for them to use it. For example, Batgirl's range attack is simply just batarangs, but it's quicker for Red Hood to use his pistols that he keeps in his hands basically at all times for range attacks than for Batgirl to quickly pull out and throw a batarang.
Who was it? He didn't say.
Speaking of Batgirl, she's more tech-focused, being able to remotely turn off cameras and security systems due to her past life as Oracle, where Robin, on the other hand, deals less damage, or I felt that he dealt less damage, but by using his staff for his weapon, his attacks have more range and can hit more enemies at once due to this. But Robin also feels more stealthy too, and I found it a bit easier to avoid detection from enemies. That, and being Batman's most recent understudy, it sort of felt right to play Robin a bit more stealthy like Batman.
Fire's his one weakness. Yeah, fire's everyone's weakness. It's f***ing fire.
Speaking of leveling up your heroes, well, there is a gear system like there is in, say, Marvel's Avengers games, but this is how you do it. Gear can be crafted or found out in the world and then changed out and equipped for your Gotham Knights, just like you'd expect. It buff and change your stats, and it will physically change the weapon you're using as well. So you can also equip and change different suits as well, which, unlike Marvel Avengers, actually changes how your character looks.
But wait! There's more!
Now, from this, if you've got a sweet outfit that has fantastic stats, but you're not a fan of the face mask, the cowl, or the gloves, or the outfit in general, you can then go into a customization tabs where you can swap out and change the visual styling of the outfit. As you can see here, this outfit for Robin has a full face mask, which I personally wasn't a fan of, so I went in and changed it to one of the 3 different styles, and one of them was the iconic Robin eye mask. And for whatever personal reason too, if you're not a fan of the outfit or styling in general, if you've unlocked previous outfits, you can then sort of transmog to another outfit style. But transmogged outfits can't be altered and changed out, so you can't change the cowl or stylings unless you're actually wearing that outfit, if that makes sense.
Oh no, I've gone cross-eyed.
Honestly, the customization and equipment here and how Warner Bros. Montreal have weaved it all together is perfect, at least for me, because while you do play as members of the Bat family, you can have your favourite version of that character. Like, I had my Red Hood in the Jim Lee outfit because my Red Hood has a brown leather jacket. Story, world, and overall setting for Gotham Knight is obviously set outside of the Arkham universe that Rocksteady created, but that doesn't mean it's not interesting. On top of Bruce Wayne and Batman being dead, we've also got Jim Gordon dead too, with a new police commissioner who is flat against vigilantes, and as are the GCPD as well, because the commissioner is focusing more on vigilantes rather than cleaning out dirty cops from inside the GCPD. So with that, when you see police officers or SWAT or prison guards, they'll attack you on sight unless you're saving them against criminals, to which they'll basically realize that, hey, you are the good guys. But that doesn't mean they're always friendly. When doing a quick crime-stopping mission, such as stopping a bank robbery, if you hang around the crime scene for too long after you've taken the goons out, SWAT will arrive and fire on you straight away. You also won't gain any experience or crafting materials if you take out police. Also, Gotham City is populated with civilians and cars, which means more crimes happen in the city, and also we get more of that fun side dialogue that we had in other previous Arkham games. There are some things that are different compared to the Arkham games. For starters, there's no detective vision. So previously we could look through walls and see what weapons goons had or what abilities they had, where here in Gotham Knights we have a AR scanner, which is a bit of a pulse scanner that can target enemies, but it's also used for scanning the room and following clues. Our health too is also slightly different, where we can heal ourselves in combat by using medkits, which takes a bit of the risk reward out of the combat from the Arkham games.
Excuse me, bad guys. I am running out of air. Gotta get pumped.
But we also have more detective work to do in some instances with Gotham Knight, with having to review evidence at crime scenes and then link the items together. For example, at the start of the game, there is a generator that opens a secret door and multiple references for a code that will unlock the door, so you need to figure out this puzzle. While they're not overly hard, a bit like solving clues in the Arkham games, it is a nice change of pace because Batman and the Bat family, they're not superheroes, they're detectives, and it's something people tend to forget. There's also no obvious level design differences too between Predator challenges and combat challenges like we got with the Arkham games. When doing one of many side missions or main missions, there are multiple different ways to tackle it. You can go in loud as Red Hood should you want to, you can sneak in quietly as Nightwing and knock out the guards, or avoid them altogether as Robin. Now, there are some things that Gotham Knight doesn't overly nail as well as the story, the graphics, and the world. For starters, the Traversal. In previous games, we've had Batman gliding and grappling guns and using the Batmobile, where here, different traversal for each character. It's not as polished as Rocksteady's Traversal or Insomniac's Spider-Man game. And, well, why am I talking about Spider-Man's Traversal? No one in the Bat family has spider-based abilities, but in Spider-Man and Arkham Knight, if you hold down one button, that'll simply allow Batman to run, they'll auto-jump, they'll climb. Where here in Gotham Knights, you need to press down, I used a controller while playing on PC, but you need to press down the left thumbstick to sprint, and then hold one button down to auto-jump, where it could have been better to simply just have it mapped to one button. Traversal 2 also feels a little under-polished, where say the Traversal of Spider-Man would have been a near-perfect template for, say, Nightwing. Yes, Nightwing can't web swing, but the parkour style that Spider-Man has when he's running around on rooftops would have been a great style and fluidity to have for Nightwing. Traversal skills also need to be unlocked too, which I'm not overly a fan of. Basically, when you start the game, there are two ways to get around the city. One of them is using your grappling gun to zipline from point to point, and then doing some jumping here and there, and the other is the Batcycle, which I'll get to. But each character has a mode of traversal that needs to be unlocked, which it didn't really sit right for me, and some of their traversal just feels a bit off. Because she has a cape in all of her core outfits, Batgirl glides. Robin uses the Justice League Watchtower for short-range teleportations, Red Hood has magic jumping, which is kinda weird, and Nightwing uses a small mechanical glider that's basically pulled from Fortnite that you can also use to fly around, which again is weird. Where it makes sense to have some form of enhanced traversal ability, not everyone needs to have a gliding style. It could have been cool if Nightwing could parkour up buildings super quick and jump higher and further using his grappling gun to seamlessly traversal around. I just described Spider-Man. Robin's traversal using the Watchtower to quickly teleport around feels slow and kind of boring. I'm all for using the Watchtower to teleport, but I feel like it would have been cooler and quicker to teleport around, say like Nightcrawler from X-Men, how the teleportation was used there. Nightwing's got the Flying Trapeze Glider too, which is kinda cool, but it's also weird that you can flat just fly around in the city with it. Yet there is a quick travel system that is also a glider that you call in, basically used to quick travel and fall into the area that you've teleported into, but you can't fly that thing. Yet Nightwing has a smaller version of it where you can fly it around. Again, kinda weird, but also my opinion. But where it may work or be explained is that you're not playing as Batman. Batman, who has honed all of his skills, including traversal, where we're playing as not Batman. We're playing as, Batman's understudies. And I don't know, but that's sort of how my brain made myself feel better about it. But the other main mode of traversal is the Batcycle, which from the start of the game is called out as well as everything inside the Belfry is old and outdated. But the bike here feels slow when driving it around. The screen effect feels like you're going fast, but the bike just needs to get up and go and feel a bit looser and feel a bit faster. Like when you get the Batmobile on Arkham Knights, say whatever you will about it, but personally, I didn't find it slow. I actually found it so fast, I found myself missing corners and missing turns. But the bike here from the get-go, while it's cool, and having it appear and disappear like the Aston Martin and Die Another Day is a nice touch, rather than just materializing from around a corner, I only found myself using it if I needed to go to another island of Gotham and I had to use a bridge, because I'd not unlocked the traverse abilities for some heroes and I was basically forced to use it. Also could have been cooler too if the bike handled differently for each hero. If say, Nightwing had better handling but Red Hood had increased top speed, or something that showed off that while yes, everyone uses the same vehicle, it handles differently for everyone. Now combat is also a bit basic. While you don't have the gadget variety of Batman from the Arkham games, the combat feels fine. It's not over the top, it's fine. While you learn the controls and immerse yourself in the game, yes, it can look cool, but it doesn't have that natural feel that the Arkham games Batman did. While you could button bash the crap as Batman in those Arkham games, what you saw on screen was impressive and seamless, where here it just doesn't have that effect. There's also no lock-on button, which can be a little annoying when you're trying to focus on larger enemy types and the camera or the combat in general is moving away from that enemy. Now, this is a personal opinion, and while this whole channel is really personal opinions anyways, but while the graphics are fantastic, Nightwing's character model is just eh. In my experience just reading the books and watching the animated movies and so on and so forth, Nightwing has always been known as the pretty boy, and while everyone else looks great, Nightwing just, I don't know, doesn't have that vibe to him, but I could be completely wrong. But graphically, I think this game is fantastic. Now I did play this on PC, and I understand that the console versions of the game run at a locked 30 frames a second. And there's also so much going on this city though, it's still kind of impressive. The city of Gotham itself is huge with heaps of different landmarks and locations, and it kind of deals with some of the gripes that I had with Arkham Knight as well. Now if you've not watched that long ass video that I did, and fair enough, but if you want, go check it out. But one of the issues I had was this huge event that happens in Arkham Knight, and there's no Clark Kent or Justice League appearing to try and help out. And while I'm not saying the Justice League swoop in here, the first thing Clark Kent does is he reaches out to each member of the Bat family via email and lets him know he's there for them. And even the email he writes to Jason Todd, or Red Hood if you will, screams Boy Scout Superman. Goons have also called out that the world is going crazy because Superman was spotted in Bloodhaven, which, for those of you who don't know, is Nightwing City that he hasn't been at because he's been managing Gotham with the rest of the Bat family. But there's heaps of Easter eggs and references, and even though they can be considered as throwaway Easter eggs for the most part, having an email come through from the Teen Titans Flash asking on how Robin is doing, or Arsenal reaching out to Red Hood to go take out some goons to get his mind off Batman's death, was a nice touch. Speaking of which, each character here is dealing with Bruce being gone differently, and it's a great mechanic and plot point to show how everyone else handles grief. Tim Drake is very emotional, where Dick Grayson just hasn't visited Batman's grave and can't believe he's gone. There's even moments where Dick is trying to ease the tension with the group by talking about happy memories they had, but Red Hood can't remember them because he was dead at the time, and they have to very awkwardly deal with the fact that Red Hood was dead, and he also might be mentally unhinged from the Lazarus pit. It's a great story plot point, and just like some great shit in general. But is Gotham Knights a good game? Well, again, I'll answer that on two folds. As a Batman fan and a massive fan of the previous Arkham games, or a Batman fan in general, then yeah, I'd say it's pretty good. The world, the graphics, the story are great, but the combat and traversal does need a bit of polish. But as a game in general, if you're not a Batman fan, then yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. Just like I wouldn't recommend playing F1 22 if you're not a Formula 1 fan, or I wouldn't recommend playing FIFA if you're not a fan of soccer. Is it a 5 out of 10 game though that some outlets have given it? Hell no, that is way too harsh. Not every game needs to be a 10 out of 10. I highly doubt the new Call of Duty is going to be a 10 out of 10, but I wouldn't know, I'm not going to play it. But is this a game that everyone's going to love? No. Is this a game that I, as a Batman fan, as a comic book nerd, as a nerd in general and such enjoyed? Yes. I can see myself coming back like I did with Spider-Man and Arkham Knight before it, just to roam around and to fall into the world that Gotham Knights gives us, and better yet, I can return to this game with a friend, and speaking of which, I did get to play some co-op with my brother, live on Twitch. It was fantastic, being able to nearly seamlessly drop in and out of co-op, because, you know, there are some loading screens, but we could tackle the city in our own way. He was running around as Red Hood while I was running around as Robin, and we had two completely different playstyles. It was easy for me to sneak in and take out enemies, where a lot of the time when he was playing as Red Hood, he found himself being spotted or going in loud accidentally, or so he says, by hitting the range attack button and shooting his gun making noise that would alert everyone. We also loved that how each character here is portrayed in Gotham Knights, where Red Hood would sit on a rail looking beefy and intimidating, where Robin would have that agile look of, say, Spider-Man. My brother put it best that if you were walking through a dark alley and you saw Red Hood, you would turn around and run the other way, where Robin would have that feeling of safety around him and that he's here to help. The last game Warner Bros. Montreal did was Batman Arkham Origins and the DLC for Arkham Knight, where they were continuing on the foundations built by Rocksteady. Where here, Gotham Knights, they've gone out and made their own Batman game in their own universe. So while comparing Rocksteady's Batman games to Gotham Knights is an easy connection to make, Gotham Knights tries to stand out and away from the Arkham universe, but it can't escape the shadow of that Batman. While the key takeaway here is you're not playing as Batman, the man who is the master of everything, you're playing as Nightwing, Robin, Red Hood and Batgirl, all who have their own areas of expertise where Batman mastered all of these skills. Batman had 1001 gadgets, could easily be stealthy and agile and hack into gadgets and still be a master of ranged combats, where here in Gotham Knights, you're playing as a character who focuses on one of these skills. If you're a massive Batman fan, you enjoy the Arkham games, or you're just a comic book nerd in general, you love the Batman movies and you want to try something and play with some friends and have a bit of fun, yeah, I recommend this game. And personally, it will most likely probably be in my top 5 video games of the year. I'm not lying, I had fun with it. Either way, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you do like what you see, feel free to leave a comment, like, subscribe, do all that nice stuff, and I'll be back talking about Black Adam.